Welcome to the Noble Pod, where we discuss ethics and sustainability in business. I'm Felix, and my co-host Joseph.
Hello.
Hello.
And today our guest is James. They're both our co-host.
Yeah.
Hello, James.
Hello, guys. Yeah, nice to meet you guys again.
Yeah.
So, James, would you like to tell us more about yourself?
Yeah. My background is software development, and I work as a tech co-founder in a startup in Beijing last year. So I came to Australia like last year March. So actually last Sunday is actually exactly 1 year. So in Australia. Yeah, so been trying to run my business for the last year also. Yeah. So that's me, yeah, for now.
And so, where's your co-founder?
I mean
It's a different business.
like the startup in Beijing, right?
Yeah.
That one's it's a customer loyalty program for local restaurant cafe. So it's a B2B.
Yeah.
So that one kind of died, because of COVID. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We pivoted to something else, but that one we work with we work with the state-owned petrol company. So like sort of like a customer loyalty program as well, but it's just very slow to move forward. You're gonna have to talk to all this big corporate, right? So you get approval, all that kind of stuff. So we're actually doing customer loyalty program for gas station. We are actually developing a IoT device, put it into the gas station, and so we connected to their CCTV, and so we grab the license plate of the car, so we know how frequent the car come in, and the gas station can go sell and if you've been coming for 3 times of this month, then maybe you can put some money here to deposit, and then you can get a free car wash or maybe 10% discount for gas, right? So that kind of stuff. So we also I'm talking a little bit more detail. So we also connected with the car insurance company. So once the car come in, we know is your car insurance policy due? So the staff in the gas station, they can go and tell you maybe you want to buy insurance through us because we're gonna give you a gift card or something for gas. But insurance company is big, right? So it takes time. So basically I'm just on the side now. So.
Oh, okay. So the business that you have here in Australia.
Yes, but just by myself. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us more about that business here as well.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I came last year in March. So didn't know what I'm gonna do. Had no idea because I didn't know it was sold here. So yeah. So tried a little bit of exporting. A little bit more detail because I'm here on the business visa. So as business visa, the requirement that you need to run the business here required by the government actually. So there also be revenue requirement as well. So maybe a little bit more background. So the visas give you 4 years, and they gave me the visa in 2021 December. Obviously, COVID, right? I couldn't come, and there's no policy say you couldn't come for 2 years because of COVID. Now we're gonna automatically extend it for 2 years, right? There's nothing like that. So yeah. But when I apply the visa, it's mainly just an option. If I get it, I'll think about it. I'll make the decision, right? Because this is the easiest one for me. So yeah, so I applied and I got the visa and say because of COVID couldn't come. I'll push the decision later on until China opened up 2022 December. 2022. Yeah, so that's the time to think, I should think about should I come, So
Well, I think that brings on to the main topic of this podcast is the issues that arise from sort of migrant founders, and I think all 3 of us weren't born in Australia, but we all have very different situations in terms of how we ended up here and how we're staying here.
Yep.
So you're on a business visa, right?
Yep.
And that means that you have to earn or create a certain amount of revenue
Correct.
in order to stay in the country, and of course that's just that's manufacturing stress.
Yeah, definitely. I had never experienced that stress before, because I was software developer. I was working as a co-founder, so I'm mainly managing the tech side. So I just need to make sure the code's good, the code's clean, we deliver. So I don't have to talk to people and go find a business, right? So yeah, that part of stress is definitely new. Yeah.
So why did you want to come to Australia?
Good question. I'm much older than you guys, so I got kids, right? So.
You got kids?
We can never tell.
Yeah, we can
never tell. People think that you're older than me.
No, he looks younger. Sorry. Yeah. So I got 2 kids.
Oh.
Yeah, 7 and 9 years old, 2 daughters. Yeah. So at the time I applied the visa, it's just one option, right? So, in China, I'm not sure in Philippines, probably in your case better, because in China, as a kid growing up, there's a lot of stress for you to have to excel in your school, so you can actually get to good university in the end, right? So there's a lot of after school curriculum you have to do. So my kids are doing that like from grade 1 started, So for parents, so much stuff you have to prepare. You have to take the kids. I have 2 kids, so that means you have to take the kids to different places to, after work, right? Yeah. So you're sort of like a bee, fly there, and then come back, and all that kind of stuff, right?
The term for it, I think, is helicopter parent, where you're sort of just hovering around, sort of picking your kids up, taking.
Yeah. So as a parent, you have to work during the day, and I come home do all the kind of work after, So it's a lot of tears, a lot of yelling. So it's not fun. Yeah. So it's I don't want to do this for the rest, maybe 10, 18, well, probably not 10 years, right? So, yeah, that's where the idea I got. Okay, maybe I just try this visa and see where it goes. Yeah.
So your whole family moved out to Australia, or just you?
No, just me.
Okay.
Yeah, it's, going back to the stress, right? So I came on the 3rd year, so there's requirement for that. For the 3rd year, you need to generate consistent revenue. So from the agent I'm talking to, the immigration agent, they say, maybe you should do like a 150K for the first year. So for the 3rd year, I mean, come on, like you just arrived. Where do you get 150K, right? Yeah. So yeah.
Well, yeah. So is it? I mean, I'm curious if that requirement, if it sounds sensible, because it is challenging. Like when you're starting out, there's a lot of uncertainty, but you need to guarantee certain revenue.
Yep.
When part of, I think, the challenge when you're starting a business is even just like, discovering the market opportunity. Right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And what if you're actually building something that's good, but will take some time to kick off?
Yeah, because my background in startup, right? So in general, I was thinking about startup, building a product, right? But I can't do that, right? Because most startup fails, right? You won't get revenue until maybe 6 months later. I don't have the time to waste. So that's why I'm not doing startup, like in a startup sense. So basically, but that's like actually going back to the last year I came. So for the first couple months, I didn't know what to do. I'm definitely not going to do startup, that I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So I did a lot of, went to a lot of startup events because, that's the environment I'm familiar with. I feel more comfortable, not like, going to a new place, just goes out there, just finding business. I had no idea, right? So went to a lot of technical, like a meetup. There's a lot of technical meetup in Melbourne, which is really good. Sometimes you can go like 5 times a week. You can get a free pizza, free beer. It's, that's good. But I went there is basically to try to see, okay, can I find like a contracting work? As my visa, I can work as a full-time employee, but I can work on behalf of my business, so providing like consultant, that kind of stuff. But last year was not good, so even for engineer, because a lot of over hiring for all the big business, for the developer and stuff, so they gone through a lot of layoff last year. still not good. The market now, yeah. So went to technical meetup, and for probably 3-4 months, and that didn't work out. And went to startup events a lot, but I knew startup usually doesn't have much money. Like I can't get like much job from there. But it's just an environment I'm familiar with. So for like a half a year, been doing that. Then went to other business events. So like at the time, you check you just go to meetup.com, eventbrite.com, Humanics now, just to search all the events. So first couple months, then I decided, okay, I'm gonna have to try business events. So this is not gonna work. Yeah, so this is where I try. Not sure you heard of it. This is a one called a BNI, Business Network something. But a lot of people feel a little bit shady about it because they have sort of like a referral system, like KPI. You have to be in that program, be in the group. You have to refer to the business to each other. And they got like a format. Like every time you come to the meeting, you have to say, okay, I refer someone, and then someone refer me. How much revenue we generated. So yeah, but this is the event I just got. I heard, and then I just won a couple one. But this usually it's very small business, and I also because I just started, right? So I didn't know what kind of business what kind of service I'm gonna perform, I'm gonna provide. So still, trial error, try to pitch yourself, so a lot of that kind of learning. Yeah. So that's the first half year. Yeah.
Well, just hearing that, does it sound because
no swearing.
Oh right. Oh no.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it's like because like in a way committing, it's like they're asking for a commitment on a certain kind of revenue when it's like like a good business would actually one would have the opportunity to study the market, and you would need that time for it to actually make sense.
Yeah, that's why they give you 4 years, right? But it's the visa is 4 years, so you're supposed to come the first year, right? But because of COVID,
in these startup communities, you've been trying to run this thing called Coding for Fun.
Yeah.
Can you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, it's because my background in tech, so when I was in university, so I really enjoyed working on Linux, open source, the community behind open source. So open source that people just write code for free and just put it out there, and everybody can use it, and everybody contribute back, so you can get really good software so everybody can use for free, right? So that's the open source. Actually, a lot of stuff we're using now, like your MacBook, your iOS, the phone, the Android, a lot of that is actually running on open source. So very early on, I just really into open source, just being in the community, sharing the knowledge. So yeah, it's been I've been doing that for a long time. So when I was in China, in Beijing, so that was back in the day, like 10 years ago at least. There's a lot of foreigner there, a lot of developer there as well. So we have a Linux club, we have people organizing all kind of events. So one of the guys, I think he's from Austria. So Martin, so he organizes Coding for Fun. So basically, just people come out in weekend, usually Saturday or Sunday. We just come out around 10 o'clock. At the time, it's really cool. There's a company that's also foreigner owned. They donate the space, very cool space. So we just hang out there. We went there at 10 o'clock. Just people are interested in building stuff, like building side project, whatever, right? So people come and talk about, okay, what stuff you are trying to build, what project you're working on, and just share, so like a round table. And if people are interested in your idea, then you can ask questions. And of course, people learn through that conversation, right? So we've been doing that in Beijing for, I think, a couple years. So I really enjoy that, because when I was in Beijing, so I went to a lot of events as well. So I really enjoy being in that community, community of developer, and we're all working in open source, either contribute code or contribute this events and bringing people together actually to sharing knowledge. So open source is not only about sharing code, sharing knowledge. It's also the big part. So yeah, so the coding for fun is actually, that's where I got the idea and really enjoying it. So when I got here, I'm here all by myself, right? So all my family are not here. So I got a ton of time in my hand. So weekends it's very quiet in Melbourne. So I got no event to go to. So I'm gonna have to make one myself. Yeah. So this is an event I enjoy thoroughly. So it's yeah. So I talked to a few people when I went to technical events. I met a few people, which Elia, that you met, right? So I met him in this like a stone chalk, like a meetup. When sometimes you actually meet real developer in those kind of events. We just talk about tech stuff, coding stuff, and then I mentioned him about coding for fun. Say, hey, would you be interested to join? He said, yeah. And then I actually organized the first one, let's say, unofficially, in StatSpace, because I actually persuaded him to join the StatSpace. StatSpace is actually a part of the state library, right? Yeah. So we did that in December. So the first one, him, actually another guy, Elmer, I met him through another accelerator program. So he's also a developer as well, developing his own language or stuff. So too bad he didn't make it last time. Yeah, so that was like a December. We had 3 people. Yeah.
How many people attend now?
So March this year, we just had this year the first one, like this year. So me, Joseph, Elliot, Elmer's supposed to came, but he got something, so he couldn't come. Yeah, so we had 3 people again. Yeah.
Is it a good place to like learn how to code and stuff?
You could, yeah. If you got a question, you can ask, and you can ask for help, and you can also learn about other ideas, techniques, and tools, other new software, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so like in my own journey, I've pretty much learned how coding is a craft, and it's very difficult for one person to know everything, and there are so many ways to do it, as well as so many things to consider and specialties to that you'll never know, but you need to I guess even like when working on a project, you will need to collaborate with people, different expertise. So that's why you're just perpetually learning, really.
Yeah, I think having a core understanding of a vast amount of subjects makes you a much better director or CEO or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Because if people will come up to you and they're like, hey, we can't do this, we don't know how to do this, you can sort of understand what direction they're coming from and understand their problems and potentially offer a way of solving those problems.
Yeah, actually Joseph is spot on, because if you're doing software development, it's a huge space, like front end, back end, DevOps. That's just like 3, but underneath there's so much technology involved, so you could do one thing with many ways. So it's not possible you know everything. So you got when you bring people together, so that's where the knowledge sharing happen, right? So
yeah, I think like for me, I think correct me if I'm wrong, in the general public perception is just like, oh, there's a general developer, general coder, and then anyone can be a code. I mean, when you find out, oh, there's so many different kinds, and
yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about coding, and my perception was that social coding was an oxymoron. Just to sort of expect these people to be in their offices kind of like CAD monkeys, so computer aided design monkeys, where they basically just get given a sketch or something, and they have to digitize that and make that into a 3D model for making products or whatever. So I thought it was a similar thing with coding.
Yeah. But I think that's also perhaps the flaw in how the general public currently thinks of coding. So like as if there's like the designer and then the technologist, and almost as if like the technology doesn't have isn't part of the creative process. Like a good studio would understand the creativity that goes into it. In fact, it's like, from my experience, when you pair the creatives with the technical people, you will be pushing the limits of the technical people, because you're not designing what's easy to do, you're designing what needs to be done, and most often that means doing things that might be complicated in the creation side, but then in the user experience side it's like really simple.
A lot of things goes behind it. Yeah. Sometimes the simple might not be easy to implement.
Yeah.
It's been very interesting watching Joe sort of have conversations with the app developers for his startup. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. I just see these messages at like 1 a.m. on Discord or whatever, and I can't avoid them. And I'm like, well, that's not my problem. Because I just don't like, if I can make it look pretty, that's kind of my job. But I know there's so much that goes into actually implementing all those features into an application. It's fascinating, really.
And even understanding the sequence of the creation. I mean, it's much more obvious in things like physical design, where when you manufacture something, it has to be exactly that order. In software, it's like it's a bit more flexible, but the thing is, you're trying to launch stuff for people to test, or having certain drops. So like, what Lego pieces do you need to make that happen? What order? And what resources do you have as well?
So it really is just like building it up.
Yes.
Like a house.
Yes.
Yeah, in a way it's kind of like art, because you have to, it's not like, okay, this is how I'm going to do it, like building a block, right? Building like this. Because you're going to have to be working on a project, and every project is different.
Yeah.
And every requirement is different, and the time frame is different. So you're going to have everything, all the requirement combined, and you have to work out the solution that's actually feasible, right?
Yeah.
In the time frame. So you're gonna have to plan everything. So it's not black and white. You're gonna have to design it really well.
But then I think like actually contrary to that, it being like art, like I've always found I've got limited experience with coding. I've got it, so I used to do websites and stuff for uni. So that's CSS, all that kind of stuff, which is probably the most simple coding. But I found it to be very temperamental and very sensitive. And I'm a swearing designer, so when I'm designing something where I'm using computer or whatever, I'm literally cursing at the screen because nothing ever works. But
welcome to the world of software development.
With software, like oh my god, I was inventing swear words. Like that, it was so challenging for me because it was so temperamental. You put an extra space in or an extra letter, and I just wasn't used to that, because like from fine art, if you do something extra line or whatever it may be, that doesn't impact it very much at all.
It's art. You sometimes have to go crazy about it,
Coding has no sense of humor. I'm just gonna go out and say
that. It depends. It's like, if you code it that way, look, think of video games, right? Video games are programmed. I mean, it's code as well, although the environment is completely different. The languages and stuff used are different, but that is coding being used in a very fun way, where you have games that give you a lot of freedom. Right now, open world is like a popular format.
So is it more challenge? So you have to be more constricted with your coding in order to allow users to be more free?
No, I think not more constricted.
Not constricted.
It's the other way around.
You have to be flexible. Because the business requirement always changing. So if you are not sensitive, you're not actually knows about the business. If you develop something, you design something one way, then the business change. Then you either throw the code, develop from zero again, or you make sure you have the code flexible enough, or make sure you actually talk to the business and got all the requirement. That's why actually social coding is really important. You're not only talking to the computer, right?
Yeah.
You're talking to a computer. You just implement something just from the requirement, but how can you make sure you got the requirement right?
Yeah.
Right. So that's the biggest thing. Like if you got a requirement wrong, it doesn't matter you developing something really cool, nobody can use it, right? So you're gonna have to be really you're gonna be really good at communication and understand the problem, actually really solving the problem, right? So sometimes as a software developer, you're really deep into the tech. You're just solving the tech problem. You're not solving the real business problem. So like you can get away with it, but eventually gonna backfire.
Yeah. So you need to take a step back and look at the bigger picture.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember like even in materials engineering days, it's something that frustrated me was also when engineers were just like stuck in the lab, and I saw like I would read their research, I'd read their theses, and then they just get shelved, and then you find out because it was so far from what the world needed, even though the execution, it's a very complicated technique to achieve something, but then.
Well, I think that's why concept is so important. To get that concept down, it's like in the university course I'm doing now, you're being marked on concept, not execution, and a lot of people are kind of like iffy about that because it's like, oh well, I can technically do these things really well, whatever it may be, but yeah, it's like at the end of the day, does it actually solve a problem?
Yeah, but I would also argue that like the execution is also a key part of the concept. Because you could have something that seems like a similar concept on the surface, but because the way that's executed is different, then they're transformative.
Right.
Actually, in the startup world, like the good startup, they actually combat this problem, right? So they actually do a role, so like a change, so. If you're a software developer, so maybe for a couple of weeks you work as a customer support. So you can actually listen to customer, completing the product you build, and you actually get first hand on, right? So
well, it's like a year in industry kind of thing, right?
Sorry.
Is it like a year in industry kind of
like
thing?
a graduate program?
Yeah.
No, actually, it's just like if you're a developer and they will just actually rotate the role a little bit. So you can work on like a customer support, or you can work on work on probably some other kind of role. So DevOps role or whatever. Just so what the other role, the challenge they're facing, and sometimes like it's really good to actually be in front, to actually talk to the customer. Okay, so you actually knows either you done a good job, so you hear the customer appreciate your work, because as a software developer you don't hear people say, oh, you write really good code from the customer, right? Because customer had no idea, right? But when you hear come say, the customer say, oh, your software is solving the problem, I'm really, really, really happy. Now, as a software developer, that's really, really, satisfaction, right?
Well, I think the standard has become so high now from the consumer's end. It goes for anything really, even like cars or whatever it may be. They're expected to be reliable and have all these features and stuff, and it's only really noticed when they aren't there. People start to complain. I mean, that goes for a lot of things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even like old school industrial design, it's like there was a general idea that like good design would tended to go unnoticed, because if you're noticing it, like it's usually because there's a problem.
It's like it needs to be so, like if it's a chair or something, it needs to be so ergonomic that you feel like you're floating on air, and I think that kind of says it all.
Yeah, that you forget about it, right?
So that's why the social coding is very important. So you're not only facing the computer, you can actually join a group, so you can talk to each other. So I think that's prepare you for the later career. So when you're gonna be working in a company, you're gonna be talking to other developer, talking to sort of explain your idea, why you're doing this way, why this is why this is a good way. So you still have to sell your idea, right, to actually get buy-in. So it's the same, right? You just have to be really good at communication.
Yeah, definitely. The sales part is so important. Yeah. because you can be working away on something for years in your room and
yeah.
no one cares
Yeah,
until you show people.
Yeah. Well, something that's, I don't know. I mean, being a founder, it's like you have to wear all these different hats, and then every other month, every other week, I'm like wearing a different hat, and so
Joe's coat rack is pretty stacked.
So, and that's when they say like the agenda is a startup, part of that agenda comes from the fact that like the founders have to look at these different aspects within themselves. So something that's also like I find kind of crazy. It's weird. It's just I just see this happening a lot, but I'm just like I still trouble to understand why human nature, or I don't know if it's human nature, it's just culture, but big companies having all these different departments that have all these politics within them. I'm like, guys, you only work, like the business only works well if you're all working together, it's just like you can't be the only department that survives.
Well, I think a lot of that comes from just so many people being employed by these businesses. That you might have 10 people doing the job of one, because you need that for the economy to have that many jobs. And I think so many people are
I have to argue. No, I mean, in a way, what is the economy? Whenever people throw that around, what is the economy to have jobs?
But I think most like even in Australia, most of the businesses are small business, right? Small medium-sized business. So they're probably hire the most, like the majority of people, right? So the big company, I mean, big companies is good. You got very like reliable, paycheck, stuff like that. But as for a developer, if you're working in a big company, sometimes it's just like you're only a little piece. They're just doing tiny little things, might not be matter sometimes. So that's why a lot of like talent, like developer, they come out and they do things about like they join other startup, right? So,
Oh, and the irony of that, right? When you're just like one cog in this machine. So there's this irony where you can have years of experience with a big company, which sounds great for a non-technical person hiring someone. Like, oh, that's great on your CV. But actually, it's but then when you're like we were just talking about how just working on complete software needs all these different specialities. It's like highly unlikely you'll even get to do that, or even maybe even understand that if you're just this cog in this machine despite all that years of experience.
But I do recommend people they have never done work in the big companies, give it a try. I mean, so you can compare, Also, it does look good on your resume, so I can afford that.
But I don't know if that's just a fault of society. I mean, it's like what's popular in society isn't necessarily what's good for the world, or
that's true.
Is it so? Which is again frustrating, because it's like you could have really talented people who gain that experience working for small businesses, and then like again, it's like I don't know, it's just this weird competitive.
But like working in the big company is not always bad, because like the bigger company got the bigger scale, so that means you're gonna have solving bigger problems. So that's not, like in a way that's it's actually pretty good. So working so I wouldn't say okay, don't work in the big companies. So go do it.
But also like it's like if let's just say you're a small company hiring, right? In a way, it's like then you have small company problems that the big companies don't have. I mean, that's something I'm learning as well in startups. It's like as the phase of the business changes, the nature of the problems and the nature of work changes as well. So you could have, it's like, for example, it'll be kind of foolish to think that, oh, we hired this, let's say super famous person who worked at this big company to work for our little business. We pay them so much money and our business is gonna fly off, when that's not how it works.
Well, I don't think business is gonna fly because you hire someone technically really competent. You're gonna have really good business idea, solving business problem.
Do people hire people because they're famous in their field? Is that a thing?
like if you are startup that really need very deep tech, you know, like Elliot, right? So he works in this company called Recall. So they're so like a backbone of for other startup that they want to build software for this Zoom or Team, you know, doing all the recording. So this company actually providing all the tech for implementing all that. So you actually build product on top of that, you know, doing recording, you can doing AI, all the stuff, but you need to get all the content, right? So they're actually providing the backbone of that technology. So, you know, they are having a problem actually hiring people, but they are being very careful, not gonna hire people who are just mediocre, you know. So, you know, sometimes you've got people, they are mediocre and then they come in, then that means you get more mediocre people come in. So, you know, as a startup, you really want to go very fast, have all the efficiency. So you want to hire we call it the rocket science, not like a
rock star.
Yeah, rock star. Yeah. So yeah, but I think that they are in that stage now. They want to hire the rock star, and yeah, so they actually literally go check on GitHub and to see who's like repo got many stars for actually the programming language they are using. So he's actually poaching them.
Yeah. So how do you become a rock star?
Well, open source, write code for free, open source, put out there, and just, you know, blog about it sometimes, or, you know, write something. Make sure your software actually really solves something, solve a problem, right? Not gonna be it's like imagination or something, right? So yeah, believe it or not, so if you want to be a really good software developer, sometimes it's a lot of marketing involved as well. It might not seem marketing, you know. You're gonna have to write about how I achieve this, you know, how I solve this problem. You know, you're gonna have to write about it, and people read about it and say, oh wow, this is really cool. And then they look at the code and say, oh, the code is really clean, it's really, really deep, you know. So that's where you track the people.
So it's not just about the output, it's about how they got to that point as well.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. You're gonna have marketing, yeah. So
but I get, which is why I'd liken it actually to designers, right? It's like you need to get your name out there, but also like the thing that gains people's respect is like you see the work and then you're like, wow.
Yeah, the process documents and how you've documented it as well.
Yeah. And again, the irony that like the stereotype coder like is like that you were saying that coding for fun sounds like an oxymoron. When
that's what we try to change that.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah. But also why, like, you know, if you're creating anything that has a software component, then, you know, there needs to be that collab. Like, again, it's like coding being treated as something as not part of the creative field is also very disconnected. I would say it's almost like, you know, a fashion designer that's never learned to sew. You know?
Yeah, or an architecture student that's never learned to draw.
Yeah.
There's so many examples. Yeah.
You know, one of my most frustrating thing, like, okay, I didn't study industrial design in the Philippines because, I mean, I saw some of the graduate work and I was very concerned, particularly.
That's not a good sign. You're concerned about that.
Yeah, particularly, you know, electronic devices. It's like they'll just say, okay, this device can do all this magic. Tell you if you have diabetes, you know. Like, right. You know, I'm like, and then when you ask the designer, well, how does it do that? They're like, that's the engineer's problem. The software developer's problem. I'm like, oh my god.
So what did they actually do then?
They designed it, right?
They just cut a piece of wood, painted it, and then put some what do you call this, rubber straps on Alibaba, and then like put it. They said, "Oh look, it can tell you all these stuff." And this was during the time when the Apple Watch was popular. I'm just like, no, there's the Apple Watch there. They haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
What makes you think this piece of wood?
Yeah, why is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Why is it wood as well?
Exactly. No, because there was no internals, so they didn't think of the electronics. They didn't think of the software.
So basically, the sculpture student.
It's not. I wouldn't even call it sculpture.
it's just a mock-up or something like that.
Yeah. And again, so in a way, there's that arrogance that I can dictate what software will do, and that's why I was telling you that the execution is also part of the creativity. If you just say, I have this concept, and then I'm the ideas person. Oh my god, that's like the most hated kind of CEO from what I've heard. That I'm the ideas person. I came up with this one-liner idea, and then you guys figure it out.
Get the money, get the VC money, solve it, right? You're gonna have to be really big, big talker,
it's a sales thing, isn't it? It's like you can just promise all these things in your pitches or whatever.
And
then it's like the CEO is on stage or something and he's promising all these things, and then everyone working for the company is in the audience like, what? Now we have to actually make that? What?
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes it works, which is kind of sad,
But
it certainly kick up the ass.
It is. It's very sad because it's like I've been in that situation as well where I'm just like, it's like where I felt really. Well, this is where like especially on the topic of ethics and business, this is like I was working for someone where the CEO made all these promises, and I was like, I was like, we won't have time to make a version 2. Because you wanted to manufacture something in China, and then there was like the whole Chinese New Year holiday, everything would shut down, and then like when you look at the timeline, I'm just like, by the time we get the first thing, we would not have a time to make any changes. I'm like, are we gonna give the client something that we've never held ourselves? And I'm like, and that was just going against so much of what it meant for me to be a creator as a designer. Anyway, so
do you think you're a sort of perfectionist?
I
mean, well, yes and no. Like
I kind of feel like running style is pretty hard. I mean, a lot of time you're trying to get a customer at the same time you're trying to developing it, right? You'll be projected that to be finished by, let's say, end of this year, but sometimes you might not go as you planned it, right? But you still could promise the customer, say, okay, we're gonna have something, right? So, but as long as you come up with good heart, you try to do it and you communicate well. Like if they you couldn't do it, and then you sort of it's like those Kickstarter, right? They say, okay, we have this design, you're gonna just back us, and then, but a lot of them they just delay, right? So this kind of thing, as long as you come from good heart, you're not trying to just cheat people, right? I mean, you can get away with it.
So I mean, that's where also having that just some understanding of how things work help, just so that you can have an ambitious goal but still have something be possible, because it's like, where's the line between pushing yourself, being fast, and doing the startup sales stuff, but then versus things like fraud, right? I mean, so for example, take
fine line.
Exactly, fine line. But I mean, take for example something like Theranos. It's just like, the kind of confidence you wanted from the test could not be gotten from the amount of blood that they were gonna extract. So it was just mathematically impossible. So for me, I'm just like whenever there's this idea of we can change something, I'm like, well, I'm always curious about that I guess technical concept that will make that possible. It's like, where in science, if science if current science theoretically says that it's impossible, then you're like, well, how are you gonna just say that you can do it, right? And then but then also at the same time, it's like you don't know everything, right? It's like you encounter unexpected problems and the market is changing, crazy things happen. There's someone, I think, in our space where they did a Kickstarter, then it was a more of an electronic device. COVID hit, and then it's like 6 years later, today they finally released it. I mean, right? And then, so I don't. But then a year ago, everyone accused them of being vaporware.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're like, we've been waiting for 4 years, 5 years, they haven't shipped anything.
What's vaporware?
Means like something you just out of thin air, like you think of, so you're not actually doing it.
Yeah. So so I think like Logan Paul's eggs.
Oh, but that's just NFTs in general.
Yeah, but they never shipped the game.
Never say Logan Paul's eggs again.
Yeah, I mean, because it's like, right, you do a promo video, you can do a mock-up video, and it's great for even testing out demand and the concept, right? Like, it's like, it'll be great to hear people's reactions before you build it. But then at what point is like, there's like, you collect their money and there was no intention of building it in the first place.
Yeah. Well, actually, we were talking about throwing it out there, throwing whether it's a beta or whatever it may be, like, it's kind of hard because you want to get people's feedback, but you also don't want to release the product. So how do you do that?
That's a startup, you're building products, and like the startup I'm helping, right? So a new VC, they're building AI tools for VC companies, so help them to streamline the deal flow process. So we go through have the design of this product, and then building MVP, then first 2 months building MVP, and then later try to get onboarding the customers, which is the VC company. So you're gonna have to build stage by stage. You're not gonna build from the start and putting all the money because it's the founder actually putting her own money in there. So you don't because you're like, she's working this full time. So imagine all the stress, right? So you gotta have to do a stage by stage and building MVP, getting feedback, and then start building. Getting feedback and try to get customer to pay if it's possible, and get VC funding. Yeah. Because you can't just say putting your own money in and build it, because you might never go somewhere, right? So yeah, so you're gonna have to be iterative, getting if it's a startup, you need to get funding, then get the funding. If you start, you need to get the customer payment, get a payment. Stop refining. Like, cause right now it's like I see it's so common. Like, let's do this, maybe the customer will buy it. Let's do that, maybe the customer will buy it. I mean, come on, what's a core product? You build that product, just get a customer pay for it, right? If the customer, they say, okay, I'm gonna try it 1 month. After 1 month, say, are you gonna pay for it? I say, maybe if you build another feature, I'll pay for it. I mean, come on, like, it's not a charity, right? It's not building something for free, right? You just
But something that annoys me is like, well, there's been so much free software out there from very funded companies, so the consumers have this idea that a lot of stuff is a charity.
Yeah, I know, but that's a difference between if you're B2C or B2B. With B2C, then of course consumer, you're individual. We all want free stuff, right? But if you're actually solving a business problem, I mean, the business they're expecting you to be around for a long time. They're not gonna actually just take your advantage and not paying you, right?
Yeah.
So they need to support you. They need to actually make sure you're still around and for a long time. Yeah. Right. But for B2C, definitely that's a problem. That's why I don't like to work in the B2C products. So always B2B and solving a problem for a business, which is actually I'm working with, like my company currently doing as well, right? So.
Well, we're running out of time, so final questions.
Yeah.
Final
questions.
Final questions. Well, where can people learn more about your business or coding for fun?
Coding for fun. I wrote a post on LinkedIn about coding for fun. Actually, someone from the SaaS space actually contacted me. Say, hey, when's the next one? I said April 7th. Okay.
April 7th.
Yeah, I had the date.
2024.
Yeah. So
right.
So April 7th, but someone from SaaS space, he said, okay, maybe you don't have to use the SaaS space because the Wi-Fi is very spotty, right? So we can use the meeting room, which is just right outside start space. So I'm thinking about doing that.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
just
yeah.
a bigger
yeah.
space, just a round table, so we can just do that over there. Yeah.
Yeah, so if anyone's in Melbourne CBD,
Yeah.
hop over.
Or if they want to get contact with me, they can email me. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
thank you very much.
Yes.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Really
Yeah,
fun
really
chat.
enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are you including the clapping? This is so weird. I've never seen clapping on a podcast.
We've got enough people in the room.
Because you have the video.